Space was at war. Not a brief or glorious war, but one that had dragged on for generations, turning entire systems into orbital graveyards. Once vibrant planets now swirled silently, shrouded in metallic debris and cosmic ash. The conflict between the Human Alliance and the Zathar Consortium had spread like a star disease, consuming everything in its path. On the outskirts of Andara's galaxy, a star was slowly dying. Its last golden flashes bathed a devastated planet, where colossal structures, reminders of an unknown civilization, emerged from the dust like bones of a forgotten titan. It was there that, in the midst of absolute silence, something began to call. The scene opens with the medical ship Solace gliding through the void, silent, like an angel among ghosts. Designed for evacuation and first aid in war zones, the Solace brought no weapons, only hope. His crew was exhausted. For months they had been transporting the wounded between besieged systems, stitching lives together as the universe crumbled around them. On the bridge, the sensors began to emit a sharp, erratic signal. "Commander, we're picking something up," the communications officer said, adjusting the controls. "Interference?" asked Commander Rhett Vale, a tired-looking veteran. "Is ITA sign of emergency? Old frequency. Pre-war." Everyone on the bridge looked at each other. That frequency belonged to protocols of civilizations prior to the current conflict. Almost no one else used it. Location: Andara system, transmitted coordinates, directly from the planet. In the main holovisor, the image emerged. A dying planet, surrounded by a faint green aurora that seemed to pulsate, as if it were breathing. Black towers, broken and covered in ash, jutted into the sky, casting long shadows. No signs of life detected, no known record, only a cry for help. "That doesn't make sense," Rhett murmured. "The Alliance has evacuated all civilians from this region for years." "Maybe they are not Alliance civilians," replied the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Ilara Voss, cautiously. The tension was palpable. The Solace was not a warship. It had no way to defend itself if something went wrong. But ignoring a distress signal, it wasn't part of who they were. Rhett looked at the screen, took a deep breath, and gave the order. "Plot route to Andara. Reduce energy emission. We will enter discreetly." The ship changed course, penetrating the silent space of the system. As the dying star projected its faint light onto Solace's white shell, the sensors picked up something else, a second, fainter pulse coming from the same location. It wasn't just a cry for help. It was a heartbeat, regular, constant, as if the planet had a heart. In the corridors of the ship, doctors and technicians prepared for landing, unaware that this signal would change not only their mission, but also the fate of the entire galaxy. In the darkness of Andara, the heart began to beat. The Solace was small compared to the battle cruisers that dominated the Star Runners, but within its compartments was a microcosm of hope. Designed for rescue and evacuation missions, its structure was light, with soft white lines contrasting with the dark background of space. Each corridor was illuminated by cold, constant lights, conveying a clinical and quiet feeling, almost sacred. On the flight deck, the faces of the crew reflected the weight of the past few months. Doctors, engineers, and pilots had all witnessed more destruction than any soul could ever bear. They were not soldiers. They were healers navigating a battlefield that seemed to have no end. Commander Rhett Vale was seated in the central chair, watching the main display as the ship slowly approached the planet Andara. He was a middle-aged man, scarred by wars, with eyes that had seen entire colonies burn in the void. Despite his firm posture, there was a silent fatigue in him, the kind that comes not from the body but from the soul. Next to him, Dr. Ilara Voss, Solace's chief medical officer, reviewed isolation and quarantine protocols. She was meticulous, almost cold on the surface, but behind her analytical eyes was an unwavering determination. For her, every life counted, always. "Sterilization system activated, field teams ready," Ilara reported without looking up. "Good. We don't know what we're going to find down there," Rhett replied. Communications Officer Lieutenant Juno intercepted new data. "Commander, I was able to decipher part of the signal. It's old, but it's being relayed cyclically. Seems automated, as if someone had left a lighthouse on and forgotten. Or as if someone were trapped," Ilara said, her gaze fixed on the planet. The planet Andara filled the canvas like a cosmic scar. Greenish clouds enveloped the ruins of a long-vanished civilization. Broken towers cast long shadows, and fissures in the planetary crust released dense, luminous vapors. Everything there seemed asleep, waiting. In the lower corridors, medical teams prepared life support capsules, reconnaissance drones, and decontamination kits. No one knew what awaited them down there, but the discipline was impeccable. That's how they stayed alive. In the hangar, Tarek, the field pilot, checked the descent module systems. He was young, but with sharp reflexes and an almost reckless courage. "If this planet is as dead as it seems, it will be a quiet walk," he said with a half-smile. Back on the bridge, Rhett received one last alert from Helix, the onboard AI. Full orbital approach in 3 minutes. No signs of active defense detected. Emergency signal remained stable and pulsating. Rhett was silent for a moment, watching the dying star cast its last flashes over Andara. As the descent module's engines were activated, no one on board imagined that down below, something alive awaited them. Something that wasn't just surviving, but air. The descent module passed through the rarefied atmosphere of Andara, surrounded by a greenish glow. The dense clouds seemed to open slowly like curtains pulled by invisible hands. From above, the surface of the planet revealed a desolate landscape. Razed cities, broken towers, and colossal structures tilted as if crushed by a celestial fist. It was a silent cemetery, and in the center of it, a single light pulsated. "Landing in 2 minutes, Tarek said, his hands firmly on the controls. "Locate the source of the signal," Rhett ordered, as Ilara checked the contamination monitors. The module touched the ground gently, kicking up a cloud of luminous dust. As soon as the hatch opened, a gentle wind, laden with bright green particles, entered the cabin. There was no sound, no birdsong, no old machines, no distant echoes. Just the regular beating of the signal, like a heart guiding them through silence. The team, Rhett, Ilara, Tarek, and 2 auxiliary medics, advanced cautiously among the ruins. The floor was covered in a thin layer of translucent crystal that crackled under his boots. Crumbling towers cast long shadows, and fragments of unknown technology were scattered like fossils from a lost era. "Signal intensifying," Juno said over the communicator from orbit. "You are close." Ilara held a portable scanner. The frequency pulsed like waves around them. "It's coming from that direction." She pointed to a half-buried structure in the center of the old city. They entered through a crack in the main building, lit by lanterns that reflected in the crystals on the walls. Inside, corridors stretched out like petrified veins, leading them up to a large circular chamber. In the center of it, surrounded by a pulsating energy field, was a transparent dome, and inside the summit, there was a child. Small, pale skin with bluish tones, closed eyes, and quiet breathing. The body floated lightly, as if suspended in invisible liquid. Luminous marks ran across his skin, forming spiral patterns that pulsed in sync with the signal. It was as if the beating of the planet came from her. Ilara stepped forward, slowly. "My God." Tarek looked around nervously. "Is this some kind of cryotube?" "No," Ilara replied, observing the pattern. "It's more biological, as if the structure were alive with her." Rhett approached the side panel. No known language, no common electronic system, just fluid shapes, like symbols in motion. Helix, through communication, tried to decode it but failed. Unknown system. Organic language detected. Impossible translation. Then suddenly the child's eyes opened. There was no fear, just absolute calm. The field around her reacted, expanding like a gentle wave. The taillights oscillated. The ground shook slightly, and on the entire surface of Andara, the signal has changed. In orbit, Juno widened her eyes. Commander, all interstellar frequencies recorded the pulse. The signal was retransmitted. Galaxy. Rhett and Ilara looked at each other. They hadn't found just one survivor. They had awakened a living beacon. And now, all empires knew. The echo of the signal traveled through space like an invisible wave, crossing stellar boundaries, crossing communication networks, and awakening long-dormant sensors. In a matter of minutes, thousands of receiving stations in different quadrants of the galaxy registered the same signature, a harmonic pulse of biological origin coming from Andara, a long-abandoned world. On Solace's bridge, orbiting the planet, warning lights began flashing in sync. Juno tried to contain the chaos of the communication channels. Commander, I'm receiving transmissions from everywhere. Alliance, Consortium, civilians, to neutral systems. Everyone picked up the signal. It's as if we had turned on a spotlight in the middle of the darkness. Rhett frowned. How long until someone gets here? Juno took a deep breath. Hours, maybe less. Down in the underground chamber, Ilara watched the child inside the energy dome. Now the symbols around it were no longer static. They swirled in a spiral, synchronized with the new transmitted pattern. The child remained calm, eyes fixed on Ilara, as if he recognized her from somewhere that transcended time. Commander, we need to get this child out of here, Ilara said over the communicator. Not completely, but whatever it is, everyone is coming after it. And if they get there first, Rhett didn't need her to finish the sentence. If the Alliance or the Syndicate got their hands on the child, it would be used as a weapon, as a trophy, or as a key to unimaginable power. Andara's silence had been broken, and now the universe was listening. The team activated drones to analyze the field around the dome. Tarek found an organic panel hidden on the side of the room, a pulsating, almost living surface. When his hand lightly touched the structure, the field opened up like a flower reacting to the sun. The dome dissolved into golden particles, revealing the child, suspended in the air, enveloped by a faint pulsating light. She landed softly on the ground, silently. He didn't cry, and he didn't speak. He just walked slowly to Ilara and held her hand with strangely natural confidence. At that moment, all of Solace's sensors exploded in activity. New transmission detected, Helix announced. The source? It's the child. A star map appeared on the ship's monitors, projected automatically. Golden lines stretching from Andara, reaching systems that no one had visited in centuries. It was as if an ancient heart had begun pumping life back through the galaxy. Rhett returned to the descent module by communication. Team, we have ongoing contacts. 3 warp signals detected. 2 from the Alliance, 1 from the Consortium. They're coming fast. Ilara shook the child's hand. She didn't look afraid. On the contrary, there was an impossible serenity in her eyes. Rhett gave the order that would change the course of their lives. Retire immediately, let's take off. And this time, no one can know where we are going. The engines of the descent module roared. Solace was preparing to leave, but the whole universe had already felt that beat, and the hunt had begun. Solace left Andara's orbit like a ghost in the shadows, the silent engines operating in maximum concealment mode. The dying star cast its last sparkles on the white hull, while the ship disappeared between the folds of space, taking with it the child who had just rewritten the galactic maps. In the internal corridors, the atmosphere was tense. Discrete sirens pulsed at short intervals, and the ship's lights were dimmed to soft red, the silent escape protocol. The crew moved with surgical precision, as if every step could be heard by invisible eyes scattered across the stars. On the bridge, Rhett watched the tactical panel. How many contacts are chasing us? Juno replied without hesitation. At least 7 ships confirmed. 4 from the Alliance, 2 from the Consortium, and 1 unidentified. They all made simultaneous jumps right after ours. They're tracking the gravitational signature of the pulse. Tarek in the pilot's seat kept the controls tight. We're using broken trajectories and unstable bend turns. If someone wants to follow us, they will have to dance with us. Rhett looked at him. Then dance well, Tarek. The holographic image showed Solace crossing warp runners like a fish trying to escape larger predators. Enemy ships appeared as approaching red shadows, adjusting their routes in real time. It was a multi-layered chase, tactical, gravitational, and technological. The Solace was fast, but not made for prolonged combat. In the medical sector, Ilara was kneeling next to the child. She remained calm, watching every detail of the ship with quiet curiosity. On her chest, the luminous marks pulsed in sync with the external gravitational field. "You feel it, don't you?" whispered Ilara. The girl turned her gaze to her. Not a word, just a light touch on your hand. And for a moment, Ilara saw images in her mind, stars collapsing, ancient civilizations, and hearts of worlds beating in unison. It was as if the child was connected to a network that surpassed time. Back on the bridge, the sensors beeped. "Direct contact," announced Juno. "The unidentified craft is overtaking us. It predicts our jumps." Rhett frowned. "How?" "It's like they know where we're going before we even decide." Out of the void emerged a long, curved black ship, with pale lights pulsing like hungry eyes. It bore no identifying signs, but its design belonged to neither the Alliance nor the Consortium. "They're not trying to destroy us," Tarek muttered. "They are guiding us." Before they could react, the child in the medical department reached for the wall, and the whole ship went into a spontaneous jump. The systems were not activated. The space simply doubled. On the bridge, everyone stared at the panels flashing in disorder. "What was that?" Helix replied in an almost incredulous tone. The fall did not come from the controls. It came from her. Solace emerged in a remote star corridor far from the known routes. The pursuing ships were left behind, except one. The black ship had jumped with them. Rhett looked into the viewfinder, feeling the weight of the inevitable. "They are waiting for us." The space around Solace was different. They had emerged in an ancient stellar corridor, a place off the beaten path, a region where distant stars seemed suspended in the void like forgotten lanterns. There was no traffic, no communication signals, and no noise. Just silence and an almost tangible feeling that this place was waiting for them. The black ship hovered a few miles away, motionless. Its pale lights pulsed in a rhythm identical to the marks on the child's body. It was as if there was a silent conversation going on between them, a dialogue that surpassed any known language. On the bridge, Rhett kept his eyes fixed on the viewfinder. "Active," Juno replied. "But they're not targeting us. No sign of attack." "Then why are you here?" Ilara entered the bridge with the child by her side. There was no fear in her. She had purpose. The light patterns on her skin were more intense, dancing in increasingly complex spirals. When the girl looked at the black ship through the panoramic viewfinder, she and the ship's lights synchronized instantly. Helix detected the change, gravitational fields modulating. I detect a dimensional gap forming ahead. In front of Solace, the space began to fold in silence. An arc of golden light slowly formed, like an ancient door opening after centuries of locking. The black ship moved first, gliding through the opening elegantly. Tarek looked at Rhett. "If we go after them, we're jumping to a place that even the oldest maps don't record." Rhett took a deep breath. "Then that's where we'll have our answers. Follow us." Solace crossed the arc of light, and the universe has changed. Suddenly, they were no longer in a known space. Ahead, a celestial colossus rose, a structure so vast that it seemed to envelop an entire star system. Towers of light and curved matter connected like gigantic veins, forming a living, pulsating network. In the center, a golden sphere shone like a heart, the heart of Andara, pulsating to the rhythm of the child himself. The crew was absolutely silent. No sensor could measure that. None of the data made sense. It wasn't built," Ilara murmured. "It was cultivated." The child walked to the front of the deck, putting his hand against the window. The instant his fingers touched the glass, visions flooded everyone's minds. An ancient civilization made of light and flesh, ruling the stars with harmony. a people who use the power of the heart to maintain balance between worlds. But something happened. A war, a betrayal. The heart was silenced, hidden, and only one heir remained. She. They brought us here, Helix said, processing signals. The black ship is a guardian, not a threat. Rhett understood. The child was not only special. She was the missing link of a forgotten civilization, the living blood of the heart. And now, with the signal reactivated, entire empires were on their way to conquer, control, or destroy what she stood for. Ilara knelt before the girl. They want you to awaken all this, don't they? The child just nodded. Outside, the lights of the Colossus pulsed with more force, as if the entire universe had just breathed again. Solace hovered before the celestial Colossus, like a seed before a cosmic tree. Outside, the golden structures pulsated with increasing intensity, responding silently to the child's presence. Inside the ship, the air seemed denser, not because of a lack of oxygen, but because of the gravity of the approaching decision. On the bridge, Rhett watched the sensor readings. Dozens of space warps were beginning to open up on the distant horizon. The Alliance and Consortium fleets were arriving. Each jump left energetic trails like bright wounds in the fabric of space. In a few minutes, that region would no longer be a secret place, and it would become a battlefield. "Commander," Juno said, her voice strained. "They are coming in siege formation. We will not be able to escape undetected." Rhett closed his eyes for a moment. He knew that fleeing would mean abandoning the child, and with it, the only chance to stop the galactic powers from turning that sacred place into a new weapon of destruction. Ilara, kneeling next to the girl, spoke in a low, almost maternal tone. "If they take you, they'll use you. They will use the heart." The girl looked at her with that superhuman calm. The marks on her skin began to move, forming a double spiral pattern, as if the heart itself was communicating through her. The holographic image of the AI Helix revealed the hidden meaning. Message decoded. Choose the bearer. Rhett frowned. "Bearer?" Helix explained. "The heart needs a conscious guardian to be awakened. She's not just the key, she's the heir. But she needs to choose who will carry the burden with her. Someone who decides the future." The girl got up and walked slowly to Rhett. She stood before him, staring at him with an intensity that seemed to pierce her soul. In silence, he held out his small, fragile hand. At that moment, Rhett saw, not with his eyes but with his mind, an avalanche of possibilities: reconstructed worlds, united peoples, or destruction on an unimaginable scale if the choice fell into the wrong hands. Outside, fleets began lining up orbital weapons. Time was up. Tarek, from the flight panel, looked at Rhett. "Commander, if we are going to hand over the child, we may be able to negotiate a ceasefire, save billions now." Ilara replied firmly, "Or we will be condemning the entire galaxy to live under the domination of whoever controls the heart." He was silenced once, and maybe for good reason. Rhett felt the crushing weight of choice. Giving up the child meant immediate peace, temporary, fragile, and based on fear and control. Protecting it meant facing two superpowers at the same time, and perhaps starting a war that would consume everything. The girl kept her hand outstretched, serene. Silence took over the bridge. No sound, no alert, nothing but the slow, steady beat of Andara's heart reverberating through the ship's hull. Rhett took a deep breath. "I'm not going to give it away." And as he held her hand, the Colossus replied. Outside, the towers of light rose in synchrony, and space lit up as if a star had just risen. The choice was made. Rhett and the child were now the carriers. The moment Rhett held the child's hand, the universe seemed to hold its breath. A golden flash enveloped Solace, expanding into concentric waves that swept through space like luminous tides. Outside, the colossal structures of the heart of Andara awakened for good. Towers of light pulsed in sync, energy channels lit up like celestial rivers, and a deep vibration coursed through the void, causing distant stars to tremble in response. The Alliance and Consortium fleets, positioned for the attack, were hit by this silent wave. There were no explosions, no electronic interference, only a spiritual and physical impact. Systems became unstable, and crews went into a state of ecstasy or disorientation. It was as if an ancient presence had touched every mind, revealing a fragment of what Andar had once been, a united civilization, sustained by a heart that beat for all. On the Solace Bridge, Rhett felt the connection grow inside him. The girl was by his side, eyes closed, guiding him. Helix transmitted data that defied all logic. "Commander, we are interconnected to a living network. The heart has recognized you as new guardians." On the display, the black ship, the Silent Guardian, positioned itself in front of the enemy fleets. Without firing a single shot, it emitted a gravitational pulse that pushed the ships out of the star corridor, blocking any advance. It was as if to say, "They don't have power here anymore." Rhett, with his hand still intertwined with the child's, heard a voice inside him. It was not language, but pure meaning. "Those who guard the heart do not rule. They do. Choice will shape eras." He understood. There was no throne, no supremacy. There was a responsibility to protect something that could unite or destroy the galaxy. The child looked at him, as if silently asking, "Do you accept?" And he replied with a slight nod. Outside, the heart emanated a second wave. This time, it wasn't just energy, it was a calling. Forgotten systems responded, old structures reactivated, and distant beacons lit up one by one, as if the galaxy were waking up from a long slumber. The war stopped, not because of treaties, but because everyone felt that something greater was back. On the bridge, Ilara let out a discreet smile. "You just changed everything." He looked at the viewfinder, at the lights that now spread out like reborn constellations. Us. The fleet slowly retreated, unable to fully comprehend what had happened. Solace stood there, suspended in front of the Colossus, not as a fugitive, but as a guardian. As the image fades away, the final narration echoes with a grave and solemn tone. In the forgotten heart of Andara, a man and a child rekindled the hope of entire civilizations. The war ceased for a moment, not by weapons, but by a beat, and this beat will echo through the centuries. If you like epic sci-fi stories, star battles, and cosmic mysteries, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Each new story is a unique journey into the unknown.